This is Film Focus with Emily Cook. For screenings, reviews, and all things film in the Isle of Man.
Hi, I'm Emily Cook. And welcome to my look at all things film on the Isle of Man this week.
This week we have a distinctly Christmassy theme, so allow us to walk you through our winter wonderland of movie magic. In this episode we'll discuss the films we're currently most excited about, explore some exciting film trivia and let you know about any film opportunities and events on the horizon. I'll also chat with a special guest from the film and TV industry, and as if that wasn't enough, we're going to be discussing what makes the perfect Christmas film, giving you a rundown of our top 5 Christmas films. Each episode I'll be joined by our resident film fan Sarah, who watches at least 7 feature films a week, waking up early each day to make sure she has enough time to cram them all in. We're lucky enough to have her joining us. She's going to be telling us what she's been watching, where, and a special announcement about a film-related challenge she's about to embark on. More on that later. Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
How are you?
Thanks very much for having me. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, yes.
Good.
I'm very excited about our first episode.
Yeah, me too.
So let's take a quick look at our featured films this week. Black Mass is a true story of Whitey Bulger, played by Johnny Depp, the brother of a state senator and the most infamous violent criminal in the history of South Boston, who became an FBI informant to take down a mafia family invading his turf. The film was directed by Scott Cooper and stars Johnny Depp, Benedict Cumberbatch and Dakota Johnson. So what did you think of it, Sarah?
To be honest, I love gangster movies anyway, so it was particularly interesting for me. The pace was amazing. It was really gripping. The pace moved nicely in that, you know, there were certain sections that were illustrative of his life, and then there'd be aspects of violence or certain important parts of his story, climaxes, all sorts of things, you know, smattering in between all of the action. Johnny Depp is definitely back to his best. I felt as if he went off the boil a little bit.
I think we'd all had enough of his kind of drunk pirate act. It worked for the Pirates of the Caribbean, but
yeah,
you can't keep doing that in other films.
No, I agree, and I think he's better than that personally, and he really proved it in this role. It was fantastic. Another mention though really needs to go to Joel Edgerton, because he's one of my favourite film actors at the moment. The Gift film that I saw recently that he's in, he's just impeccable, and he also wrote and directed that, I think.
Really?
I really hope no one pulls me up on being wrong there, but
I saw the trailer the other day, and it certainly looks like I love kind of gangster films, and but it looks a bit more gritty and a bit more real, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that soon in the future. The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 is the latest film in the Hunger Games saga, starring Jennifer Lawrence and from director Francis Lawrence. The film explores dystopian themes and draws the other films to a conclusion. So Sarah, I've not actually seen the Hunger Games apart from the first episode a long time ago. What did you make of it? You saw this last night, didn't you?
I did see it last night, yeah. I saw it over in Harrow at the View Cinema, which is quite a nice little place actually. Quite a small screen, but nice comfy seats, so yeah, definitely go there. I found the film very entertaining, although there were parts of it that were a little bit silly. I don't know, I mean, not to put me off, I thought it was very entertaining. I liked it much more than part 1. So anybody who kind of thought that part 1 was a little boring, or, you know, the first 2 were way better, I think that the fourth one does kind of make up for that and really brings everything together nicely. Jennifer Lawrence literally can do no wrong in my eyes, so anything literally that she's in I normally will like, so for that reason as well I think she's great. For such a young actor, it's phenomenal what work she does.
And seeing Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, that was quite strange. I think they must have done what they did in Fast and Furious with Paul Walker, because there were a couple of shots of him that looked a little CGI'd, but they did a brilliant job of it. You could barely notice.
For those who don't know, Philip Seymour Hoffman, the actor, he passed away earlier this year. And how does he's obviously in this latest Hunger Games.
He is, yeah. Not very much though. I think I heard somewhere along the grapevine that he was meant to be in it more. And obviously with the tragedy that happened, they had to make do with what they'd shot.
The 24th Bond film Spectre, directed by Sam Mendes, features Daniel Craig fighting to get to the core of a secret organisation threatening the very essence of the 007 programme, as well as James Bond's very own life. So I saw this, Sarah, the other day. What did you make of it?
It's definitely not my favourite Daniel Craig Bond movie, but I didn't think it was bad. I didn't find Christoph Waltz massively menacing. I found him a little bit of a letdown, actually, in terms of, or compared to some of the other Bond villains we've been treated to. Mads Mikkelsen I thought was particularly fantastic, and that's not to say Christoph Waltz isn't amazing. I actually, you know, I think his work is great.
He didn't really have the stature that you would expect, almost the caricature character.
Yes.
You want that in a Bond almost.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as he was, I don't think this is a spoiler, but as he was kind of the kingpin of everything, he just fell flat for me, definitely. I thought that the first sequence really stood out for me.
Oh, absolutely. The first sequence is incredible.
Great. But then don't you think that as the scene progressed into something more action-packed, which I won't spoil for people who haven't seen it, the special effects let it down?
A little bit, yeah. I think so.
You see what I mean?
Some of the action scenes, I was just like, yeah, right. Which you expect to go, yeah, right, in Bonds.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, a bit clunky.
It's shaky. Yeah.
What we just said about the opening sequence there is really interesting, because we won't be spoiling anything by saying this because it's within the first 4.5 minutes. It's seemingly one continuous shot, which is very clever. The Mexico parade of the Day of the Dead, and it follows Daniel Craig on one shot from street view into a building, up an elevator, through a room, and out onto a rooftop. And that whole shot happens and lasts 4.5 minutes, which it looks like it doesn't break at all. It's very, very clever. Also, Léa Seydoux manages to recreate probably one of the best balanced Bond girls that I've actually seen. She's very strong, but she's also sensual. And whenever a Bond girl in the past seems normally to be kind of submissive to Bond and does whatever he wants, but she, it seems to be all on her terms. I really liked that. I thought it was very refreshing, but not in a, oh, we're making a point here way. It was just refreshing and a nice change to see, I think.
I don't know whether you heard, but apparently Naomi Harris has actually said that she doesn't agree with the term Bond girl. She wants that changed. So I thought that was interesting, bearing in mind I completely agree with what you say. I really feel as if she embodied power and elegance and intelligence, but
with some degrees of vulnerability. She was human. Yes. She was a rounded human.
Yes, yeah, not the kind of kick-ass woman and she's got nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't ticking some male fantasy boxes, which is great. So do you know what Spectre stands for, Sarah?
I don't, actually.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yes, please do.
It stands for Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge and Extortion.
Ah,
there you go.
Nicely done.
Don't say I don't tell you anything. The Lady in the Van is a British comedic biopic based on Alan Bennett's beloved play of the same title. It's directed by Nicholas Hinter and stars Dame Maggie Smith as an elderly and homeless Miss Shepherd, aka the Lady in the Van, who after arriving in Camden Town in the 1970s, installs her van, which she lives out of, on playwright Alan Bennett's driveway. After saying she'll only stay a few months, she actually ends up staying a lot longer. Alex Jennings takes the role of Bennett, expertly mimicking his speech and body movements. It humorously follows their unorthodox relationship as they discover more about each other and themselves throughout this touching film. I saw this the other night at the View Cinema in Shepherd's Bush. on my own, as I quite like to go to the cinema on my own. It's quite a nice
do
experience.
too.
It's incredibly self-indulgent to do
People
that.
think you're a weirdo if you do that,
Oh,
though, but I quite like
don't
it.
care what people think. Yeah, so what did you think of it?
I literally loved it. I think Dame Maggie really made Miss Shepherd very well-rounded. On the face of it, she's quite dislikable, but...
Cantankerous.
Yes, that's a really good word for her. Bless her. But I really think Dame Maggie helps the viewer get to know why she's so rude, sometimes unkind, and really reveals the fragile and guilt-ridden woman underneath. And I think that takes a great actress to do that. Obviously, the scripting is amazing as well.
I thought that Alex Jennings did incredibly well, and they actually have bifurcated his character. So they have two versions of him on screen. There's the writer, and there's also the version of Alan Bennett living his life. They provide a vehicle for Alan Bennett's writing, which is often in monologues. It provides a vehicle for him to talk to himself, to give him a reason for narrating so much and having kind of a stream of consciousness about what's happening around him. I think that works really, really well, and it's done so cleverly. So when you see both of them on screen, it's not a split screen, so it's obvious where the divide is or how they might have done it. It's a tracking shot, or you've got somebody in the foreground who's making them overlap. It was incredibly clever. She actually played the Miss Shepherd character in the stage performance 15 years ago, which obviously in the film 15 years has a certain resonance because, well, you'll have to watch the film to find out why, but it's quite interesting for her to come back and play that role. There are a few nice cameos in there as well. Yes. We won't spoil those for you, but they're always enjoyable. And also, I thought the production design and the grade was really nice. There were lots of browns and blues in shot. My friend Paul Ensby actually did the grading on it for Company 3. He created the colours and the way it looked after it had been, the final edit had been locked down.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the colour yellow features quite a lot.
As anyone who's seen the trailer will know.
Exactly. Refreshingly as well, I think it's nice to see a different kind of male-female relationship on camera. It's not a romantic relationship. It's not really a mother-son relationship either. It's more to do with...
friends.
Or friends, no. Or even enemies. It's to do with responsibility, I think, and caring. Although he's not a carer in the film, as he likes to inform us. So it's nice to see more of a richness of life portrayed in a film.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one.
Star Wars The Force Awakens, out this December, and arguably the most eagerly anticipated film of the year, is directed, co-produced and co-written by J.J. Abrams. It's the 7th instalment of the main Star Wars film series, and the story is set approximately 30 years after the events of The Return of the Jedi, which was from 1983. I've only recently had my introduction to the franchise, but we've had a letter in from Richard Hurd in the Isle of Man, who tells us why he, and so many of you out there, are excited for its release.
I wasn't alive when Star Wars first hit the big screen, but at the age of around 11 or 12, the first trilogy was digitally remastered and sent out back into the theatres. This presented me with my first opportunity to see the films where they ought to be enjoyed. I love nothing more than saving my pocket money and heading to the matinees showing the latest blockbuster, often on my own. When I first saw A New Hope, as it would later be retitled, at the Palace Cinema in all its glory, I was mesmerised. Of course, as soon as the next two were released, I rushed straight to see them. The storytelling was very familiar to me. As a fan of Greek mythology growing up, I knew all too well about the hero's journey. But now there were lasers, spaceships and speaking robots. It was equal parts grounded in familiarity and an exciting delve into a futuristic world, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I don't know whether or not the new trilogy will surmount to much from the trailers that I have seen. I have learnt very little, which excites me. But with a cast of old friends and new, I can't wait to see if the Millennium Falcon can still outrun Imperial starships. Please don't disappoint me.
Thanks, Richard, for getting in touch. Although the film isn't out until later this month, tickets are available throughout the whole of the UK for advance bookings now.
And I've got mine booked. I'm going on midnight, the first opportunity to go and see it.
That's a sign of a true fan there, Sarah.
Yes, indeed.
Let's have a look at what else we've been attending over the last few weeks in London. Sarah, you attended a really cool event the other day, didn't you, film related?
Yes, I went to the Prince Charles Cinema to see Gremlins, and there was a Q&A with Zach Galligan, who plays Billy in the film, followed by a screening of the film, and there was an opportunity to meet Zach and get a photo with him, get something signed, have a little chat. It was absolutely amazing. I had such a fun time. Zach was so nice and really appreciated the fans coming out. He answered a few questions. There were a few little extra bits that he threw in there, little bits of trivia that the fans absolutely loved. And yeah, I just had the most amazing time. It was great fun.
Brilliant. And we're going to put a few pictures up from your experience, a picture of you with Zach, as well as a couple of him on stage as well, but they're going to go up on our Facebook page and blog, so please go and check them out. I actually went to something that was really brilliant a few weeks ago. Several friends of mine have created a film called The Watchmaker's Apprentice, and I went to see a special screening of that at Salon QP at the Saatchi Gallery the other week. It was an amazing event, and it's about Roger Smith, who's a world-class watchmaker based in the Isle of Man. And there was a massive audience there and huge applause at the end. It was really, really lovely to see an Isle of Man film actually being given the attention that it deserves on a wider platform than just the island. I mean, it's been screened throughout the world, but it was great to see it at the Saatchi Gallery.
It's worth mentioning also that The Watchmaker's Apprentice has officially been selected to be screened at the Chichester, South West London, Celtic and Buffalo Film Festivals.
A superb achievement, and the film's continuing to attract this attention and praise. Later we're going to be speaking to Dave Armstong, who is the director of the film, so please keep listening for that interview.
Or if you're listening to this as an excerpt clip from the full show, please check out the director interview clip separately.
The movie industry is full of really interesting facts and figures, many of which we have no idea about. Each week, Sarah's going to divulge some tantalising trivia and inform me of some of those interesting facts.
Did you know when Bill Murray crashes onto the stage after seeing Frozen Herman in Scrooged, director Bryce calls to him Joker, in reference to Bill Murray's consideration to be the villain in 1989's Batman, which I think would have been really quite interesting, but personally I don't think he would have done as well as Jack Nicholson.
No, I don't think so, but that's really cool. I love it when films interact like that. In Hook, because Tinkerbell was often in the air, Julia Roberts, who plays Tinkerbell, she had an assistant whose sole purpose was cleaning the bottom of her feet.
What a great job.
There are those jobs in the movie industry. You're not always the ones making the coffee. Sometimes you're the ones cleaning the feet. Also, interesting fact about Hook, Michael Jackson was approached to do it by Spielberg, and also David Bowie was approached to play Captain Hook. And I think that would be an incredible lineup. Michael Jackson's Peter Pan and Bowie is Hook.
Definitely Bowie.
Definitely Michael.
I don't know about MJ.
We're not having a fight on this. Okay, what else do you have to tell me about?
This one's from the Gremlins. In Cantonese, Mogwai means devil, demon, or literally gremlin.
Oh, wow. In Home Alone 2, can you guess how much Macaulay Culkin got paid?
I would say it would be in the millions, but I'm not sure because I know he was really well paid as a kid.
Okay, so this was way back in the early 90s, so
money
was a lot then.
I'm going to go 1 million.
No, it's 4.5 million.
Oh my goodness.
And it was the biggest paycheck ever to a 12-year-old. Finally, what's our last trivia point?
The addresses and phone numbers depicted on the LAPD dispatcher's computer for the Nakatomi Plaza management in Die Hard are the actual numbers for the management of Fox Plaza, where the film was shot. So the studio building.
Oh, wow.
They used their own building and they paid themselves to use it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. Crazy, isn't it?
The shops have been telling us it for months, but in case you hadn't realised, it's almost Christmas. The time of year when we'll start rushing out to the shops to buy goodies and gifts, but most importantly, deciding which films will occupy us when we're off work and the kids are on school holidays. Before we reveal our top 5 Christmas films, it's actually interesting to think about what makes a nostalgic Christmas film. It's not what you would think necessarily. Most people would say, oh, it's the film's setting, like, I don't know, Love Actually or The Holiday. Those are Christmas films because they are about Christmas and about what happens at Christmas. But head of distribution at the BFI, Margaret Duras, also questions this, saying setting's not actually essential, and she highlights more the feel-good qualities of these kinds of movies.
I think I definitely agree with that. I think Christmas is basically a time for friends, families, loved ones, and really anything's possible just due to the fact that it's really near to the new year and everybody really has a chance to kind of change and to be better. I think Christmas films basically maintain that positive message, and that's why they're so loved.
Yeah, I'd agree with you entirely. Also, it's kind of about when we probably watch them. I mean, all of the ones, as you will see on our list that we're about to give you, are ones that we watched and enjoyed when we were children. So they encapsulate that Christmas childish excitement that we had, and we somehow evoke that when we watch the films as adults. Yeah. It's quite special, really.
Yeah,
so,
I absolutely agree.
Let's have a look at our top 5.
I went for Scrooged as one of mine. It's about a selfish, cynical TV executive who's haunted by 3 spirits bearing lessons on Christmas Eve.
Why did you pick that?
I basically just feel as if it's smart, funny, it's got the right amount of sentimentality, it fills your heart with Christmas gladness, and I literally can't wait until the next time I see it. I only just saw it last week and I can't wait for the next time I see it again.
I think that's a really popular one. My first one would be Hook, as I mentioned before, starring Robin Williams as Peter Pan, Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook and Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell. It's not only one of my favourite Christmas films, but it's one of my favourite films of all time. It's a remake of the Peter Pan story, but with a twist. Pan, who left Neverland years ago, has now grown up and become a self-centred workaholic with kids of his own. He must return to Neverland, rediscover his inner child, and with a touch of fairy dust, fight the pirates in order to retrieve his children who have been captured by Peter's arch-nemesis, Captain James Hook. Mm-hmm. It's a film of excitement and Christmas wonder and magic, and really represents kind of what Christmas is all about, I think, and with a child's imagination.
My second one was Gremlins. Obviously, I'm a big fan, having been to the Prince Charles Cinema recently. It's a perfect blend of horror and comedy against a Christmas backdrop. The special effects and the creatures for the movie are literally amazing. The way they interact with the human characters, it's just staggering how the film could have been made in 1984, and the movie stands the test of time for me, 100%.
Brilliant. I'm generally not a fan of sequels, but Home Alone 2 is on my list, probably because that's the one we had on VHS and the one that we always put on at Christmas time.
VHS, blast
I know. It's the story of 8-year-old Kevin Macaulay Culkin, who after a mix-up at the airport ends up spending his Christmas vacation alone in New York, whilst his family fly to Florida. When Kevin discovers that the sticky bandits from Home Alone 1 are on the loose, he pulls every trick in the book to stop them from robbing an elderly man's toy store just before Christmas. It's a fast-paced film, and because we have an 8-year-old boy as our guide, it really captures the essence of Christmas from a childhood's perspective, and I think that is what the feeling for nostalgic Christmas films is. I think it links back to childhood. All of these films, bar your next one, really have kind of a childhood feeling of imagination, or creatures, or fairies or pirates, and I think that adds that Christmas nostalgia element.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think Die Hard really kind of leaps into the imagination as being initially a Christmas film, but I think it's one of the best action films set at Christmas. It has definite parallels to the themes of less violent offerings, and it also has the excellent Alan Rickman. I mean, God, what more would you want? Along with a gripping storyline and an awesome script. I think it lasts all year round, but I love watching it at Christmas especially.
Lots of people have actually said that they agree with you with the Die Hard one. We asked you on Facebook about your favourite Christmas films, and the response has actually been on a global scale. We've heard back from people all over the world. It's a Wonderful Life, Die Hard, The Muppets and The Christmas Carol were all selected by Lara Kerrison from Sandergate.
Fiona Heller from the Youth Arts Centre in the Isle of Man recommended It's a Wonderful Life. She felt it was the best Christmas film ever. It has unselfishness, giving, loving, a believable baddie and a wonderful, credible hero. And an angel called Clarence. Lovely.
What more could you want?
Absolutely.
Tina Dempsey in the Isle of Man agrees with Fiona, but also throws Elf into the mix.
Oh, I love Elf. So amazing. Toby Hawkins from Bexhill-on-Sea agrees with my selection of Die Hard. Thank you, Toby. He says it's because it's hard to have a good Christmas movie without machine guns. The Great Escape is another case in point that he cites.
I'm not sure I quite agree with you, Toby, but thanks for your feedback on that. Jason Alexander Coop from London says A Wonderful Life, Elf and the Muppets.
And Tom Rowlad, Janet Lees and Russ Henley all recommend Scrooged.
And Claire Quigley, all the way from Australia, has been in contact. And I used to work with her at Blockbusters back in the day. And she says A Wonderful Life, Home Alone 2, Love Actually, The Muppets Christmas Carol, When Harry Met Sally, and many more. She says it's all about setting the scene within the screen to match the scene that you're a part of, being tucked up on the sofa with your onesie, snacks, twinkling fairy lights, and a tree, especially when you've come home from a cold day working or doing Christmas shopping. We do love to hear from you, so please do keep getting in contact on our Facebook page. Here at Film Focus, we love to speak with special individuals from the world of film and television, and this episode is no exception. There are so many talented filmmakers creating movies on the Isle of Man, producing thought-provoking creative works and telling the stories that really do require telling. One of the most notable films of which is The Watchmaker's Apprentice. The other day I joined Dave, the film's director, in his studio to chat about the film and its production. I'm here in Dave Armstrong's studio, and Dave is the director of The Watchmaker's Apprentice, a film which has been made on the Isle of Man over the last few years. So in a nutshell, what's The Watchmaker's Apprentice about?
The Watchmaker is a film about a relationship between two great craftsmen. George Daniels, who had the pleasure to meet, was I suppose once classed as the world's greatest watchmaker. He was able to make a watch from start to finish, every single component. And it's about the quest of another man, Roger Smith, to become his apprentice over many years. And I suppose against the odds in a way, because George Daniels didn't want an apprentice. He worked on his own. He made one watch every year, and never really wanted an apprentice. He thought they would get in the way, and he didn't really have time. But Roger persevered, and although he was rejected on a couple of occasions, he persevered and made a watch that impressed George so much that George took him on to be his one and only apprentice. And now Roger Smith is, I suppose, in the watch world, I suppose what you call a force to be reckoned with. Roger's like a sort of rock god of watchmaking of the 21st century. And he, like George, is a superb craftsman. They are works of art. They are beautiful. And the film follows their relationship and how it developed. And it's a great human interest story, whether you're into watches, whether you like watches or not. It's a story about two people and their relationship, succeeding against the odds in a very, very difficult industry where you have to learn 30 or so skills to become a master watchmaker. And they both did that.
I was fortunate enough to watch the film with you in London a few weeks ago at Salon QP at the Saatchi Gallery. And what you said about Roger Smith being a rock star of the watch industry, he completely is. People are surrounding him, they're completely in awe of him. Was that what you expected when you set out to make the film?
No.
Where did the idea come from?
Yes, so the original idea was to create a series of vignettes, and then we discovered this whole other world and this relationship that we didn't know anything about. And we were very, very fortunate. George was, when we met him, was obviously quite old and not very well, and we were just very, very lucky. The first couple of times we tried to interview him, he just wasn't well enough.
I'm now very ancient, and unable to remember everything I hear.
George was a very strong man, you know, and you will see if you watch the film, you know, it's just, you know, the description of someone that conquered a lot of ailments and just battled through. And when we did manage to meet him, and we only had a short time with him, but it felt like we'd spent an enormous amount of time with him. We just suddenly gained so much by that one fortunate interview that we managed to get.
But when you watch the film, it doesn't seem like one interview. It seems like so much content over a long period of time that you had this access to him.
We were just, as I say, very fortunate, and then very fortunate to gain access to his workshop so I could play.
And get the beauty shots. It is beautifully shot, Dave. It really is.
I had such fun in there, and I was just so lucky. You know, I was let loose filming everything from old oil cans to old telephones on the shelf, to all the little shavings of watches, to all the tiny little pieces and all the handmade tools. There was some obviously industrial equipment in there, but handmade tools and tools of every single description. I mean, I could have spent weeks in there.
It is beautifully shot. I mean, Mark Kermode commented on how beautifully shot it was, didn't he? Well,
thank you, but I could hardly fail to make things of such beauty look anything than they are. I mean,
I think plenty of people could manage to make them not look so beautiful. But it is a wonderful film to watch, and it's exquisite. Some of those shots and the shallow depth of field, and in some shots you've created a sense of dust and magic that have been put on in post-production.
Christy D. Haven, who edited the programme, she always had this vision that it was a sort of magical relationship, almost fairy tale-like in its nature, with this master watchmaker and this young apprentice. I'm hoping we've captured some of that magic, but it was such a great and fascinating subject matter that I hope we've done it justice.
I think you absolutely have. As well, you got John Rhys-Davies on board to do the narration. He must have seen the beauty in the story, and was that how you got him on board?
Well, yes, and also because we wanted to have an actor and a voice that would convey the sort of depth and sometimes poetic nature of the script that was crafted by, not just by the team, but by our friend and colleague Roy McMillan, who crafted an amazing script and narration. And of course, to do that justice, you needed a voice that could do it justice. And John has just got such a fantastic voice and such depth. We're just very lucky to have managed to put those pieces together.
The turning hands on a watch are symbols for the revolutions that spin out man's span. It is man that ends, but his works can endure.
If anybody out there wants to buy a copy or watch the film themselves, how do they go about doing that?
Well, if you can kindly give them a link to the Vimeo link to the trailer, which will give them a little flavour of the film. And then if you like the film enough, it is available on Amazon.
Excellent, that's really brilliant. And with Christmas coming up, what more could anybody want for Christmas than a copy of your film?
Well, there is actually one thing.
What?
One of Roger Smith's watches.
Oh yes, okay, yes. A copy of the film and a watch. That would be ideal.
Unfortunately, we can't give a watch away
No.
Be sold.
Well, thank you very much, Dave, for joining me, and I will look forward to watching the film a fourth time in the next few weeks. So, yes, lovely to see you, Dave.
Will you cry again?
I will cry again. Thank you for adding that.
Oh, so you cried. Oh my God. I'm like literally such a crybaby in movies. So when I watch this film, and I will watch it, I just think I'm probably going to be in floods of tears.
Probably, yeah, I can imagine so.
And he sounded like such a nice guy. It must have been a great experience interviewing him.
It was. I mean, he's one of my closest friends, so it's
that helps.
Yes, that does help.
I'll certainly be looking into buying a copy of it for Christmas, or maybe afterwards, depending on money.
Excellent. As we've seen, it's clear that Sarah knows a lot about films, but we thought, come on Sarah, put your money where your mouth is. So she's embarking on a rather exciting journey to watch over 500 films over the next year. That's on an average 46 films a month, 9.6 films a week, and 1 1/3 films a day. That's a big commitment.
I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait.
So, I understand you're starting the challenge on the 6th of December and that you'll publish your first episode on the 9th of December. What do you think you're going to watch first?
I'm definitely going to be going to the cinema with my mum this weekend. We tend to do this every week. It's our mother and daughter time together.
Oh, lovely.
And we're hoping to catch Christmas with the Coopers and Carol. So one slightly light-hearted and one probably a little bit more artsy, just to try and mix that up a bit. But if I get some spare evenings, I definitely also want to cross The Good Dinosaur and Krampus off the list too. So a bit of horror and a bit of children's film.
Excellent, a nice mix there. I find it fascinating that you can manage to watch all of these films. It's brilliant. If you'd like to follow Sarah's progress, go to YouTube and search for Sarah 500 Film Challenge and you'll be able to find it there.
Thanks very much, Emily. It's been really great chatting to you. I really look forward to joining you for the next episode, if you'll have me.
Of course I'll have you. I feel both enriched and blown away by your dedication to film. Thanks so much.
Before we draw things to a close though, what's happening in the filmmaking community on the Isle of Man at the moment?
Well, island-based film training scheme Manning Shorts are running a free course throughout December with DOP John Crane on cinematography, which was in such high demand that they actually had to turn some people away. Amazing.
Oh my God.
I mean, where else do you get free film courses? There'll also be a number of courses coming up in the new year, including a producer's workshop with Nikki Earnshaw, an actor's workshop with Leslie Manning, and a sound workshop with Rob Winfield. So if you didn't manage to get a place on the workshop with John Crane, there are still opportunities coming up in the new year. We'll be back soon with more from both myself and Sarah, so please do join us then.
So that's a wrap on this week's episode.
If you'd like to discover more, find us on Facebook.
Simply search for Film Focus.
For screenings, reviews and filmmaking opportunities right here in the Isle of Man.
Thanks for listening to Film Focus with Emily Cook. Happy movie going!